On Radio Australia, we always make time for music, and we love it live. And when artists like Geordie Lane drop in, we can't resist. Type Radio Australia YouTube into your search engine for this and many more wonderful performances recorded live at Radio Australia. Tony Matthews with ABC News. The Thai Army has been shutting down radio stations at gunpoint a day after declaring martial law in the country. The BBC's Jonathan Head reports from one of the few pro-government stations still broadcasting.
Community radio stations all over Thailand. A lot of them are pro the governing party. My understanding is they've all been shut down by the military. This is the last one left for broadcasting. There are soldiers not very far from here. They've been in shutting their stations down at gunpoint. We do know that 14 TV stations have also been shut down, again largely partisan ones. So the army has given itself immense powers. One of its rulings last night, it said that no journalists are allowed to publish interviews with anyone who says anything that could stir up any unrest. Very, very sweeping ban, effectively, on any kind of controversial comment.
The architect of Labor's school funding reforms, David Gonski, has rejected the assertion that improving the nation's education performance is not linked to funding. The government will scrap the Gonski funding model after 2017 and move to lower inflation-based funding increases. The Commission of Audit recommended a lower indexation rate, arguing Australia's international education ranking had fallen despite increased funding. Mr. Gonski says that's true, but the funding was poorly targeted.
To say that many of the schools in the state systems needed further assistance, both in money and tender-loving care, is to me an understatement. Governments need to embrace the importance of school education to individuals and to the productivity of our society.
Liberal Senator Cory Bernardi says voters are tired of the arguments around election promises and would prefer governments to be upfront and honest with them. The Prime Minister has come under fire for introducing a debt levy and increasing the fuel excise in the budget, despite promising no new taxes. In his weekly newsletter, Senator Bernardi says there are plenty of regular people who are disappointed with the budget and their concerns are entirely legitimate. He says the government has had to change its mind and needs to explain why.
I think the public accepts that things have to change, but what they don't like is when, a new tax is imposed and someone suggests it's not actually a tax. I think the government's now come around to a viewpoint that they recognise they need to acknowledge that and get on with the job of explaining why these things are in a national interest.
An American cybersecurity expert says 3 Chinese companies embroiled in spying allegations have links to Australia. The US claims 5 Chinese military officers hacked into the computers of US companies in order to gain trade secrets that benefited 3 state-owned Chinese competitors. Dmitry Alperovich from the specialist security firm CrowdStrike has told the ABC 730 the Chinese companies are BioSteel, Chinalco and SNPT. He says all 3 are multi-billion-dollar companies with long-standing connections with Australia.
BioSteel, for example, is, of course, in the acquisition stage of trying to acquire solar resources, an Australian mining company right now. So all of these companies are probably somewhat familiar to the Australian viewers because they're massive companies in China. They're very interested in resources and being able to extract resources from Australia and other countries.
The Federal Treasurer Joe Hockey says Fairfax Media intended to injure him by publishing a series of over-sensational and unfair articles earlier this month. Mr Hockey is suing the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age and the Canberra Times for defamation over the stories about fundraising activities in his electorate. Documents filed in the federal court show Mr Hockey will claim the Sydney Morning Herald published a grossly defamatory placard to increase its sales at the expense of his reputation. He's claiming aggravated damages, interest and costs, although he hasn't specified an amount. And Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou has announced midfielder Mile Jedinak will captain Australia for the World Cup in Brazil. Jedinak takes over from Australia's longest-serving captain Lucas Neal, who missed out on selection for the Socceroos squad. Looking at the weather now for the major cities tomorrow, Brisbane expecting a shower or two, 25 degrees. A sunny day for Sydney and 26. Morning fog in Canberra and a top of 20. Melbourne, late showers, 23. Hobart expecting rain at times and 19. Adelaide, a shower or two, 22. Perth, showers and late storms, 23 degrees. And a mostly sunny day forecast for Darwin tomorrow and a top of 33. ABC News. You're with Radio Australia.